Hey, it's Easter. Happy Easter. Hey, I am making this quick video. Why? Because James contacted me yesterday and said, hey, our life are in danger. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, they're taking down, in Japan, they're taking down all of Jimmy's websites. And then also the talk of the town. So he's heard from a news reporter that wants to report on Jimmy's court case. This particular reporter says, I looked up Amy Berman Jackson's case and it says it's closed and it has nothing to do with Jimmy. And I said, you know what, James, listen, reporters know how to get into Pacer. That's number one. Pacer is the electronic filing that allows everyone to go in and see what's going on in the court system. But in our case, it's so corrupt that Amy Berman Jackson, Moss, denied us equal access into the court. When I say equal access into the court, they denied us electronic filing. So we have to go to the Stone Ages and we have to use the mail. Now keep in mind, electronic filing is free. We are told to use snail mail. When we go to the post office, it costs us anywhere from $50 to $200, over $200 for a free service or something that should be free. Why do they not allow us to use the electronic filing? One, because of news reporters. They don't want our case getting out. Why? Because it's a RICO, it's a 1983 KKK case, it's a Privacy Act violation case, it's a national security violation case, and it's a serious human rights violation case. It's a human rights violation case that the Department of State is hiding, that Japan is hiding. All right? And we have the Magnitsky Act and other executive orders that prevent the discrimination and also the harm, the human rights harm against Americans that they're trying to hide. Not only did they illegally violate Jimmy and you, James, your patents by stealing them and by harming your son to make you quiet, they've harmed 100 other kids that are disabled in Nihon, and they want this covered up. It won't be covered up because what's in the dark is coming. Okay, I'm going to stop right here because I want the whole world to see how the State Department is discriminating against Jimmy and James. They are collecting ADA funds and they're denying ADA rights. This is an emergency request because their lives are in danger. And we have called several times to the State Department representative, and we got a letter from the military to contact a guy by the name of Rand. The guy by the name of Rand gave us empty hopes because the person that we talked to twice never returned our emergency. It's going on 6 months now. It's overdue. The State Department must, by law, give him, Jimmy and James, a right to sue letter. They haven't. They ignored an emergency. We're writing Magnitsky Act and other executive orders that protect us Americans from this harm. And here is the hard evidence. This is the proof coming straight from the Department or the State Department. Now you think about. Also, I got to stop right here and tell everyone that the Japanese government, the Prime Minister, says they're coming to D.C. to discuss the Magnitsky Act, the human rights violation, right? So if they're going to discuss human rights violations, they have to discuss what they did to Jimmy, an American. This is an American boy in Japan, and also to his father. They stole his father's patents, James' patents, and then they used James' son to keep him quiet. You can't do this to an American, because if you say it's okay, then you're setting past precedent. You're setting precedents, which means that it's not safe for us Americans to send our children to Japan. Do you understand how important that we have an open discussion about these issues and stop it? Do you see how important the Magnitsky Act and all these other human rights acts regarding violations are important? If we're going to write them, we have to implement them, not hide Jimmy and James' case and then pretend they don't exist. Jimmy and James, your case is still alive because it is within our case, and they know it. That's why they're afraid. So I just wanted everyone to hear this out. James and his wife's greatest fear is the government, as it pertains Japan, taking away Jimmy, because what they're saying right now is our case is made up. It doesn't exist. And guess what? The government can come in and take your kids away from you if they think that you're a threat, if they think that you're a little crazy, right? And so that's their greatest fear, because this is a cover-up. The State Department is covering up the pay-to-play. They should have nipped this in the bud years ago, but instead they're hiding it. And as of date, they're hiding it right now. Now, let's go back to the post office. You know, when we spend hundreds of dollars on a free service, electronic filing we should have, but we don't. They, in order to prevent us from getting into the record, the district court, the Court of Appeals, the Supreme Court, what they've done is they've denied us rights by sending the information back. And so we got to send the information back to them. Do you understand? They deny something that should be on the record. And then they piss us off by sending us the boxes back. And so we have to send it back to them. So it doesn't cost us just $50 or $200. It costs us double. And then on top of that, Amy Berman Jackson and Randolph Moss, when we asked for electronic filing, Amy Berman Jackson has told us too many times to count, maybe 7. She said, no, you don't get electronic filing because I'm waiting for the DOJ to dismiss your case. She can't say that, guys. You want to know why? Because our defendants have violated our constitutional rights. And the Westfall Act says if you're going to violate constitutional rights, you defendants don't get the DOJ to defend you. You cannot take tax dollars to defend people that violate other people's constitutional rights. But because these white-collar criminals own the judicial system, own the tracking system as it pertains to electronic filing, they got stock in electronic filing. It's a business. Kim and I did a video on how they control the electronic filing. When I say they, I'm talking about congressmen, senators, judges, clerks, lawyers. They have stock in this electronic filing. And it is so important because you don't want anybody, especially us, putting out the real news in that electronic filing. Why? Because then the people will know their dirty little secrets. The judicial system at every level in every state is a huge business designed for the rich. Designed not to have you get justice. And then I'm going to stop right here and I'm going to let the people hear this. This is why 241, 242, 1985, and 1986 is so important. When people violate your constitutional rights or a safeguard, and they know about it, they are part of the problem, and they will go to prison for up to 20 years. And if somebody dies, they go to prison for life. So that's why they're retaliating against us. Our case is not about us. It's much greater than ourselves. It affects everyone. If we win, if we go to the Supreme Court, we pass precedents, right? We will change law. That's why we fight so hard, because those little baby clerks that write orders, deny orders, give their own opinion, which becomes law, cannot happen. We have to stop it. We have to use our case as a case study, and we have to fight for our rights. That's why our case is in the Supreme Court, and a baby clerk denied it and sent it all back to us. Why? Because they want to hide the truth. Okay, and while I'm at it, I'm going to show you what my questions to the Chief Justices were, and I'm going to show you how many constitutional rights that they violated. Well, I'm going to do this. Okay, so number one, whether the USA Corp, United States of America, LTD, and the United States Post Office Service, etc., are corporations with a charter. I want to know, because if it's been dissolved, they're not abiding by their charter, they're violating rights. Question number two, whether the employees of the United States Corp, United States of America, LTD, US, and the Post Services violate the USA Corp's charter by violating constitutional rights. Why do I ask questions? Because I know their business. They got a DUNS number. Number three, I want to know whether the statute of limitations ran out based on orders signed by a little baby clerk, Courts of Appeals, because I know it's wrong. Number four, whether the court failed to provide equal protection under the law and put the plaintiffs, a protected group, in harm's way and willfully. All right. Number five, the question is whether the court denied the ADA advocate, that would be me, the right to protect my ADA clients. Question number six, whether the orders written and signed by the D.C. Court of Appeals baby clerk on the 26th of June, the 26th of August, 29th of October are unconstitutional, because we know they are. Question number seven, and guess what? I'm asking this to the Supreme Court justices. Question number seven, whether the court's action to interfere with interstate commerce is unconstitutional, because we know it is. And it leads to RICO, right? Number eight, whether the court's actions or inactions are causing a preventable health issue, which is legal abuse syndrome. Number nine is whether the courts erred by denying the ADA advocate the right to publish the case under the ADA Act, Titles 2 and Titles 3 on 26th of June, as this is a public interest case. I wanted media attention. And if you recall, the baby clerk came back on the 26th of June, said, no media attention for you. We're not publishing it. She's so wrong. Once again, clerks never sign, deny, or give their opinions on orders. Number 10, I want to know if the Magnitsky Act is unconstitutional. Why? Because it's not working. Not working for us. It's not working for Jimmy. So if it's not working, why do we have it? That's the question. Question number 11, whether the courts ordered not to accept the petitioner's opposition after the 29th of October was unconstitutional. So what happened after October 29th? The baby court clerk issued an order, and we know it's false. How do we know it's false? Because one of the judges retired on the 1st of September. So if he retired on the 1st of September, you know, good and doggone well, he didn't sign an order on the 29th of October. And number 12, I want to know from the justices whether the court violated constitutional and interstate commerce rights by charging a fee for an appeal, then denying orders, safety measures, and just basic ADA rights. Number 13, I want to know if it's unconstitutional and a safety hazard to allow federal entities to investigate themselves as per Executive Order 12196. Why are we letting the fox guard the hen house? It is unconstitutional because they will never tell on themselves. Number 14, is Title III of the ADA 1990 ADA constitutional, which states that all man-made laws designed to deceive can be changed. So qualified ADA individuals receive equal access into the courts. I want to know, because these guys are collecting 88 funds and denying us every right under the sun. Now, the last question is very important. And once again, I'm asking the Chief Justices, is it constitutional for a foreign entity and a domestic entity, that would be Japan and the State Department, to steal an 88 petitioners, that's James Ryan's, patents? Two, they stole two, without giving him the relief that is due. Isn't that a fantastic question? And that is why that baby clerk sent our boxes back to us illegally, and she's gonna pay because it cost me over $200 to send it, right? And so somebody asked me, well, Sue, how do you know for sure? That was Carol R., by the way. She asked me, how do you know for sure that the military is involved? And I said, they took an oath to defend the Constitution. And our case, they violated constitutional rights left and right. And the soldiers that took an oath will put the civilians in jail before they go to jail, because they know once the top leaders know of this wrongdoing, they got to make wrong right, especially when it deals with constitutional rights. Because how can you send our most valuable assets, our soldiers, overseas to fight a rich man's war when we got treason in our own backyard? You can't, right? You got to take care of your house first. We got to take care of the United States first. And in order to take care of the United States first, you've got to see who's the white-collar criminals in every state. And that would be the judges writing void orders. That would be the district court, like Amy Berman Jacks and Moss, writing void orders, not signing them, trying to do administrative trickery. That would be the clerks, their little pawns that think they're above the law and abuse their power and try to gaslight you. That would be Building 810 with all those attorneys that set you up to go to fake kangaroo court using manufactured evidence, manufactured police reports, manufactured criminal reports. That would be them. Okay, back to Carol R.'s question. How do you know that the military is involved? They took an oath. If they violate their oath, that's a federal offense. They go to prison. That's number one. Number two, they knew in 2017 that there was going to be voter fraud based on the G2, which is the intel. And so President Trump wrote an executive order that says, hey, look, if you foreigner or anybody violates voting or the voting process, we're going to go in there and we're going to freeze your assets and you're going to prison. And he also wrote the executive order that freezes people's assets if they violate human rights. And if there's corruption involved, serious corruption involved, and you sit back and you pay attention to detail about our case, if this is not a human rights violation at the nth degree, I don't know what is. But either way, he called a state of emergency. And once he calls a state of emergency, guess what? It's on. And if the military is not involved, FEMA is involved. And if you look and pay close detail attention to the 6th of January, you cannot have civilians go and break into one of the most secure buildings in the whole world. It doesn't happen. There's so many operation orders that prevent this nonsense. How do I know? Because I wrote a lot of the operation orders when I was in the military under General Henry. All of these joint operation orders are found in a safe at 5th Army, right? So, or Fort Meade or Fort Myer, because those are the National Capital Region where they have what's known as the commanders, DCOs. So I'm telling you that we are the toughest army there is. We provide support to everyone. People look up to us. There's no way that we're going to let little civilians run our capital. Yeah, that was a FEMA exercise, guys. You got to, if you don't know or have background in the military or in psyops, you wouldn't understand. You would believe the media. The media gives you BS. Why do the media give you BS? Take our case. You would not know about our case, which needs to be in the media, right? You wouldn't know about it because Amy Berman Jackson and people like Amy Berman Jackson, people in Building 810, the DOJ, they're hiding this information from us. And you got to ask yourself why. And I'll tell you why. Because it's all about the money in their minds, in their eyes. But guess what? Money is good, but you cannot take it to the grave with you. You got to use it for good, not evil. Okay, so it's getting long and it's Easter, so as it pertains to James, tell your media person to look under Pacer and follow the instructions. She's got to log in and put in the different court cases. And keep in mind, once a judge violates your constitutional right, she's not a judge anymore. She commits treason. She's a white-collar criminal, and she needs to be in prison. So we will never consent to her orders. That's why our court case isn't dead. It's alive. It will never be dead unless we consent to the devil. They're either going to settle or we're going to trial. That's the bottom line up front. And they do not want a trial. Trust me, they don't want to go to trial. Okay, so this video also is directed to General Milley, and I will send it to DOD after I finish. General Milley, James feels threatened. Why? Because the Japanese have removed Jimmy's website. And once they start removing his website, and the talk of the town is, this case is dead. They are telling him and others, they don't have a name, that this case is dead. And so what they usually do, if they try to make you crazy or make you into a threat, he feels that they're going to try to take Jimmy away from him and his wife and put them in the court's care. And we don't want that. So please, can you investigate again? Because this is what they're hearing. So, without further ado, please protect. This is Sue. Out.